Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast. A Tuesday, 3 p.m. Bo Wulf, Zach Berman, ready to talk about the Eagles' depth chart on defense, maybe a little bit of a TikTok on the trade up for Cooper DeJean. You wrote a good story today, which everybody can read on allphly.com if you're a diehard. Zach, how you doing?
Doing well. Excited for the show.
Beautiful weather today. How about that weather?
Yeah. Have you had a good morning?
I got a little field trip with Casey. Got to go see Pinocchio at the Arden Theater. Good time.
Nice. You like Pinocchio?
Are you judging that?
No, not at all.
You're looking down on that?
Not at all. I guess if you like Pinocchio.
I would say that I have no strong opinion one way or the other about the general story of Pinocchio, but I thought the actors and craftsmen and the set design and everything, I thought they did a very good job.
Did the kids like it?
They had a very good time, yeah.
Nice. Okay, that's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, everybody else is sort of reading this as like there's something unsaid, and I don't know what it is.
There's one other person in the room. I don't know who everyone is.
Julia senses it. She feels like you're wanting to get something off your chest, but you're afraid to do it, and I don't know what it is.
No, not at all. Not at all. Yeah, that's great.
Is this your normal way of having conversation?
I asked you how your morning was. I asked you about Pinocchio. Yeah. I'm ready to talk defense. It was good. Yeah, it was good. Productive. Did some work, did some reading, preparing for this, and I'm excited for the show.
You like preparing?
Yes, I like preparing. Yes. Yeah. Well.
All right. Before we get to the defense, because we talked about the offense yesterday, I do want to talk about your story.
Austin wants to know why you're so insecure about Pinocchio.
I'm not. I have nothing to be insecure about. I had a good time.
Good, yeah.
I just feel like you're being weird.
Not at all. I'm all good. Ready for the show.
Cooper DeJean, tell us the why you wrote this story and a little bit of the background.
Well, the cool thing is, so the Eagles had behind-the-scenes footage that they released, and covering the team for going on 13 years now, it was actually more footage than they typically put out.
I would say so.
Inside the draft room, the particular machinations with the deal, and so I thought that it was, we ask a lot of questions. We're asking questions at press conferences. We're asking questions behind the scenes. But when you get real-time footage of what's happening, and I understand there can be selective editing, right? There's parts of that are not included, parts of that are included, but this isn't acting for the cameras. Like, this is actually happening. And so I thought you can take that footage combined with some other things that we heard and kind of weave together a narrative of how the Eagles landed DeJean. And what jumped out to me from watching it, from the comments after the draft, certainly the Eagles' actions, but then that footage in particular is how dogged the Eagles were in getting DeJean. You heard Jeffrey Lurie say on the call to Cooper DeJean that they didn't immediately go to sleep the night before because this was at the forefront. I heard Howie Roseman on a number of different interviews where he said after the press conference, which was midnight on that Thursday. So is midnight technically Friday?
Technically, yes.
Technically. So midnight Friday. After that, they went right back upstairs and started planning how they can get DeJean. And then they go into the draft on day 2. I think it was 6:55 p.m. And Howie outlines what their possibilities are. Actually, Jeffrey Lurie said it was an obsession. They had an obsession with getting Cooper DeJean. And so there were 2 possibilities that really stood out to them, Carolina and Washington. They talked about the Chargers. Chargers weren't interested in their proposal. talked about the Titans. Titans didn't have a third-round pick, so moving back from 53 would not have been conducive. So the Panthers and the Commanders, and the Panthers, that deal was a little more attractive in the sense that you didn't fall back as far in the third round, but there's competition for that, and that was the Rams. The Rams trade up 239, and once the Rams trade up in the draft room, there's that, the Eagles. They think that,
and the Rams offer not like definitely better, because it was 52, which is in between the 50 and 53 that the Eagles had, a future second, and 2 fifths. So, I mean, it depends how you value the future second. I guess maybe you're betting against the Rams and just planning long term, but that's not a definitely better offer.
Well, if you think next year's draft is going to be better, and then maybe with the Panthers' time horizon. But no, that's a valid point. I mean, the Panthers would have traded back and gotten 2 second-round picks. But the thing is, I think if you're Carolina, that third-round pick is pretty high, right? So in the Rams deal, you get to keep that third-round pick.
Sure.
But so that's what. So anyways, in the draft room, there's like this dread. You see it on Howie's face. You see it on Jeffrey Lurie's face. And then the excitement when they take Braden Fisk.
Yeah, it gives you a big fist pump from
Howie. And then Howie says call it in. They make the deal with Washington. You hear the calls, obviously, to Cooper DeJean. They have the footage of Cooper DeJean, the emotion that he has in Iowa when he gets the call. Then Cooper DeJean comes the next day, and it's interesting. DeJean visited a week before, the Friday before the draft, and Dom DeSandro, the team security chief, and does a lot more than that. He says to DeJean, "I told you you'd be back." And that was also evidence that this was definitely a guy that they had been targeting. So I recognize in writing it, a lot of it is material, or I should say most of it's material that is provided by the team, right, in that footage. But I thought, A, not everyone watched the whole thing there, and B, you can really kind of put a narrative together about how they landed DeJean.
A couple of questions for you.
Yep.
Do you think that if Quinyon Mitchell had gone 21st, DeJean would have been their pick at 22? Do you think he would have been over Terrion Arnold?
I don't think so. Do you?
I don't, but they seem to really love the guy.
No, but I think there's a possibility that exists where if the 2 corners went in the top 21 and the offensive linemen were off the board, like say edge rushers and Brian Thomas fell, right?
Right.
It might very well have been DeJean at that spot. When the Eagles did those scenarios during the week, let's say 6 quarterbacks don't go, right? Or let's say the edge rushers fall, Verse falls or Latu falls.
Chop Robinson went
Chop Robinson,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe in that case, it's Cooper DeJean. I do think, and we talked about this before the draft, that there were scenarios that they did in that room where they would be just fine coming away with Cooper DeJean at number 22.
Right. They would have had to stay.
Yeah.
Which I still think if one of those 2 corners goes, then they're maybe a little bit more aggressive in trying to move up a spot or 2. But I think it's obvious that they had a first-round grade on him and wanted him. The second question is, if the Rams had taken Cooper DeJean at that spot, what do you think the Eagles do?
I don't think they make the trade.
You don't think they make a trade?
No.
You don't think they want... They were after getting a second corner, and they would have been happy to get Kool-Aid McKinstry. You think they wanted the specific player?
Yeah, I think it was the specific player. I could be wrong there. There were, I think, more than one. There was more than one player with the first-round grade who slipped, but I don't know who the other player was. So at that point, I think they would have stayed at 50 in 53.
What were some of your other big takeaways from the all-access piece that the Eagles put out there?
Yeah, so you see the Red Star meeting, I thought was interesting.
This is the pre-draft Red Star meeting, not the before day 3.
No, yeah.
Who you like? Yeah.
So and then the before day 3 meeting, but the Red Star meeting, which was during the week, and Ryan Myers is running it. Tiny, as his nickname is, there, and you can see certain scouts standing on the table or pounding the table.
Yeah, nobody's standing on the table.
Yeah, pounding the table for certain players.
To be fair, just to be journalistically accurate, I don't believe anyone was pounding the table.
No one's pounding the table. Well,
it's all theoretical. It's all.
As a matter of speech.
Okay.
They spoke with confidence and forcefulness.
Sure, but you are physically pounding the table.
I'm pounding the table.
They were not physically pounding the table.
Yeah, I mean,
this thing's gonna break one day.
Will Shipley and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. You know, and these are guys that
Trevor Keegan. I was surprised by that.
Team captain at Michigan.
Yeah.
Right? So those were a few players that jumped out, and then the meeting that Howie Roseman talked about, the 10 a.m. meeting, and we mentioned it on that show that Saturday when they meet and they say, scouts, like, stand up for who you believe in. And you hear them talk about Trot Jr., you hear them talk about Anais Smith, and you hear them, you know, Alan Walking, a director of scouting for the Eagles, he mentions Johnny and
unusual.
Johnny Wilson there. So that part of it jumped out. There was also a scene when it was before the 5th round when the Eagles blurred out who was on the board, but they, Howie says to the room, we're going to go after these two guys. And he's pointing to the tops of their board. And you see Anais Smith and you see Jeremiah Trotter Jr. And so obviously,
one who's highlighted in Jeremiah Trotter, presumably because he was a
Red Star
player.
Sure.
And Anais Smith was not, but
yes.
It doesn't mean they don't like him.
But
Jeff Scott brought him up in that day 3 meeting. Yeah.
So what jumps out there is, like, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was not a sentimental pick. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was very much someone that they had identified. Now, they waited till the 5th round, right? If they wanted him at the Jayhawks Hunt pick, they could have taken him at the Jayhawks Hunt pick. If they wanted him at the Will Shipley pick, they could have taken him at the Will Shipley pick. But going into the 5th round, it was very clearly he was at the top of the board there at linebacker.
There were a couple funny moments. I thought one in particular was, I don't know if it was day 2 or day 3. I don't remember. But, like, Howie's doing all these things. He's got all these things going on. And then Nick Sirianni just, like, walks into the draft room, like holding it like he's late for class.
Rushes in.
I'll just, what's up, guys?
Yeah. Were you ever late to class?
Yeah, of course.
You were?
In the entire history of my life, was I ever late to class? Definitely.
Chatting in the hallways and like that kind of thing, or?
I don't think that I was late to class as much as I did sometimes get kicked out of class for laughing too much.
I can see that.
Yeah.
At your own jokes?
I don't know.
Joy,
I remember
were you ever late
very
to class?
specifically one time we had a substitute teacher in science class, a slightly older woman, and she farted. In the middle of class, and I mean, I think the whole class lost it, but I mean, I just could not recover from that. Yeah,
okay.
I mean,
okay.
It's about as good as it gets.
And they kicked you out.
I think on that one, I just left myself. I had to take it upon myself.
You're like George Costanza. I'll see everybody. Yeah. Okay. All right.
How about you?
I don't know if I was late. I don't know if I was late to class that often. We had, Joy, 5 minutes in between classes to get from one class
not
to
enough
the next.
time.
What's that?
Not enough time.
Not enough time?
No. Especially if you had gym and then you had to go all the way across the school. Like, just
5
forget
minutes
it.
between class?
Yeah, 5 minutes between class.
Yeah, that seems short.
Yeah, but everything was well, to Joy's point, gym was a little farther away.
I feel like 10 minutes is standard.
Is that right? Was it? I thought it was 5. Was it 5?
Maybe it was 10.
Maybe it was 10. Okay.
I'll have to ask.
Yeah. No, we had like free periods in there sometimes.
Sure.
Where so you were able to catch up, like, with like other stuff during free periods. So class to class, I was pretty good at getting in class. Now when I was in class, sometimes, like if Bill Simmons had an article that was out, my mind might wander to that, right? Peter King's Monday Morning Quarterbacks. I always printed those off. We had.
So you're in there with a printout?
Oh yeah, because we didn't have like computers or anything in class, and so
you're just sitting in there reading a printout.
Well, they don't know that I'm reading that, but absolutely, I used to print off
that's funny.
Bill Simmons. I used to go to the library, or was it called the Calc Lab? I think it was called. Yeah, and I used to print off Bill Simmons articles and Monday Morning Quarterbacks. Yeah, to read that.
Wow, incredibly disrespectful.
No, because I still listened and I still knew what was going on.
It doesn't sound like you were listening.
Yeah. I mean, you can multitask, right? Anyways, what else stood out? So here's a little. I don't know. This is it's not funny, but I've never seen Howie in reading classes before. Have you?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
It seemed like it was just on day 3, right? When he was really just trying to get into the nitty gritty of. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was interesting. Julian Lurie's presence, like right next to Jeffrey in those pre-draft meetings, I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Julian, and you were the first to report this back during the Senior Bowl in 2021, or it was before.
I think it was later than that.
Yeah,
But
we noted that we noted his presence at the Senior Bowl, but you were the first to report that he had a formal role in the organization. And yeah, I mean, Julian Lurie's around. He's involved. I mean, he's not just coming in one day to run the team. Like he's very much involved and understands and has input in the decisions that are made, right? And so that stood out. I would say just kind of the mechanics of the room. It's interesting to see, like, coaches aren't in the room.
it's so fascinating to just see how the actual stuff gets done. I think it's great.
Yeah. It's interesting. They have on the TV, they had the NBA playoff game on in there, right? Yeah.
Nick probably asked for that.
Yeah, like
Needed something to do.
Yeah, he's watching the game. But no, I mean, coaches play an important role, but like coaches don't know who they're drafting. Coaches get called in.
Right, they get called in.
They get called in
like
when
the Cooper
picks are
DeJean
made.
one in particular. Like
Yeah.
they're already like congratulating him for him making him the pick, and then people are filing in because
exactly.
they traded up for it.
So it really shows you like how these decisions.
The circle
are made.
is small for the actual draft day decisions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just the draft room take, the draft room table, seeing who sits where, seeing who speaks up. Yeah, I enjoyed
And I
that.
do think, from all that we have talked about, the reporting and guessing about Jeffrey Lurie's influence, I mean, it's significant. They're showing you like he is right next, like he and Howie are talking about who, like, they're about to lose Cooper DeJean. Like, that's it. Like, Jeffrey is very, very involved.
Well, as we've written about, Jeffrey loves the draft.
Yes.
And he loved the draft before he became an owner, right? And so he's very interested, and he asks a lot of questions. Like you saw, he says, what about Carolina, right? I mean, that's if you're
Right.
That's like an informed question there, right? That's someone who's been briefed on this, who knows kind of the potential landmarks. So yeah, I mean, I don't think Jeffrey's picking the right guard per se, but he's certainly not coming in on September 6th and saying, all right, who's on the roster, right?
Right.
So yeah, you are correct about that.
What did you make of the way that Howie set up the team picture at the end?
Oh, saying we're all gonna go down.
We're going to take a little field trip.
No, yes. What were your thoughts on that?
It was okay.
Okay,
I thought I was expecting him to have explained that a little bit better, but
gotcha. Were you in that shot? Did they get the back of your head at all?
I don't know.
Okay,
I didn't notice.
gotcha. They had
You
the
know what I
back of
didn't-
my head in there.
Yeah. How'd it look?
I mean,
You got a good head of lettuce.
thank you. I had the vest on that day, right? I was coming from the show.
Oh, well, if it's a day that ends in Y, then you probably did.
No. I mean, I was dressed pretty casually relative to the people running the show.
You feel bad about that?
I was just making an observation.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one last note. Did you notice the misspelling?
See, this is why you're good. You can pick out misspellings. In my article or on the... no, that was a joke. No, what was the misspelling?
They had Alec Hallaby, 2 L's in Hallaby.
I did not see that. Okay.
I mean, you can't be letting that happen.
Yeah, I don't read the descriptions. I should see that, but
You gotta those things gotta pop to you,
these things got to pop to me. Yep, you're right.
Okay.
And then you also see them kind of behind the scenes throughout the draft process, like at the Senior Bowl. Some of it's stock footage, like from past years.
Sure.
But
they're talking about Alan Walking and Brandon Hunter talking about Quinyon Mitchell at the combine and how he's checking these boxes and the player on their radar. So that's interesting.
But look, I'll give the Eagles video staff and not the video staff like for putting together team film, but kind of the in-house production staff. I'll give them a lot of credit. Like that was really well done.
Yeah, they're great. They've always been great.
And informative. And like I've had this debate with other reporters where they're like, "Oh, my nightmare would be for the Eagles to be on Hard Knocks." And I'm like, I would love if the Eagles were on Hard Knocks. And we have this debate. And the other guys are like, that's so much more you have to worry about. And I'm like, that's so much more you can learn. Like you're getting.
Yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, frankly, and I'm not like dismissing what we do day to day, but when you talk to someone when they're at the podium, you get a sanitized version of kind of what they think or a version of events, right? People remember stuff differently or in a way that's not always how it happened. But when you actually get the footage, like you see how it happened. So
even if they are controlling what footage gets out there, it's still telling
real time.
and it's still
Exactly.
it's still interesting.
Yeah. So now that said, when the Eagles were on, what was the Amazon one called? All or Nothing.
Yeah.
When they were on, I thought they could have had a little bit more.
Pretty sanitized. There was like almost nothing in there.
There's a little too much, like the WIP talk show hosts narrating.
Yeah.
And not enough like inside the meetings with the players.
Yes.
Yeah.
And basically, like there was only one memorable scene, and that was the Josh McCown walking off the field, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, well. All right, before we get to the defense, Zach, why don't you tell our listeners about what you've been cooking up lately?
Great transition there. Look, this time of year, I like to be on the grill, but I don't necessarily love to go grocery shopping. Well, the best solution is I came home from work a week ago, and on my doorstep, on the stoop, was Butcher Box waiting for me there. It was terrific steaks ready to go on the grill, because with Butcher Box, you get incredible deals on premium cuts. Deals this good are hard to come by at the grocery store. It's high quality meat and seafood that you can trust. Now, I had the meat, but I'm telling you, you can trust it. 100% grass-fed beef, free organic, or I should say free-range organic chicken, and pork that's raised crate-free and wild-caught seafood. It's delivered right to your doorstep, free shipping always, and there's curated, customized box. There are different plans that are curated to your needs. It's a variety of high-quality cuts at an amazing value, and the things I love about this is the convenience. The fewer trips to the grocery store. It's always prepared. It's in my freezer. I can go home tonight, defrost it, and have it. And it's a great combination of quality and value. Butcher Box is offering our listeners an amazing offer where new users can get free meat plus $20 off your first box. Join today using our link butcherbox.com/PHLY and use code PHLY to receive this exclusive offer today before time runs out.
Meanwhile, I will tell you about our friends at Rite Aid and all that they can do for you on the vaccination front. We're talking vaxes for COVID-19, shingles, pneumonia, tetanus, whooping cough, chicken pox, and more. Rite Aid is going to help you protect yourself and your family by staying up to date on your immunizations. Rite Aid pharmacists are specially trained, certified immunizers. Most vaccines are... I can't read immunizer without thinking about that fraud, Aaron Rodgers, but
is that in the ad copy?
I don't think that he is going to Rite Aid. But if you want to be in your right mind, Rite Aid can help you. Book a vaccine appointment today. You can schedule for yourself or for your whole family at riteaid.com/schedule. State, age, and health restrictions may apply. Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist for details. Rite Aid pharmacists in Pennsylvania can immunize ages 18 plus 1 day for most vaccines and ages 3 plus for flu and COVID-19. The CDC recommends that adults, this is a shingles thing here, but they've got shingles, they've got COVID-19. I had a nice conversation about shingles with Cuz on his show a couple of weeks ago. I think it was his cousin or his uncle had shingles. Well, probably should have gone to the Rite Aid to get the vaccine. Wouldn't have been in that situation. Not a fun time, I would imagine. Select Rite Aid stores have a dedicated pharmacist ready to administer vaccines and answer all your questions. If you have questions on what immunizations you need, or if you're not sure if you're up to date, or you're just feeling nervous to ask questions, a Rite Aid pharmacist will take the time to make personalized recommendations based on your health history and discuss any concerns. No questions are too small. Just walk in or schedule an appointment. Monday to Friday from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. State, age, and health restrictions may apply. Ask a Rite Aid pharmacist for details.
When I lived in Washington, D.C., there was a Rite Aid a block away, and I was there far too often, like for everyday stuff to eat, get my bread, my milk, things like that. And I should have gone to see the pharmacist sometimes, too.
Bread, milk, that's all you were eating?
Peanut butter, jelly, yeah. I mean, I was on the road a lot. I think I did like 100 and something nights on the road my first year there. So I was, I don't want to compare it to like George Clooney and Up in the Air, but I would put it this way: I would not get something that had an expiration date like that was too far in advance, because I would be gone every weekend.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of George Clooney in you.
I'll take that. I haven't heard that, but I'll take that.
By the way, that reminds me, when you asked what the pickup line was for Jason Kelce to Dylan McMahon, I right after the show, it hit me what the pickup line should have been.
What's that?
Oh, people are saying you look like you've got a little Jason Kelce in you. And the guy says, oh, is that right? And then Kelce says, would you like some?
Okay. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to respond to that with, but
just to cross my mind.
Yeah, I need to give a shout out to Jason, to the staff around Jason Kelce, if you will, because I don't even work for Jason Kelce, but multiple times a week I get people reaching out. Hey, is there a way I can get in touch with Jason Kelce?
I went to this wedding this weekend. And anybody who hears that there's any connection to the Eagles is like, oh, do you know Jason?
Yeah.
Or I love Kylie. Oh my gosh, we watched that documentary and I love Kylie.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, so I'm
from every walk of life.
So I'm always you want me to reach out to Jason on your behalf here? What am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah, he seems like a good guy. I agree.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I can only imagine the amount of requests that they get inundated with.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. And that's why they're coming on our show tomorrow, both of them. Hey, what's going on? Is the schedule coming out Thursday or what?
I hope so. I mean, well, not as much as Emily, my wife. That's the one day each year
she cares about what's going on with the Eagles.
Yeah, she is. When are they releasing this schedule? When are they? And it's because everything in our life gets put on hold until the schedule comes out. And so it's the only thing that she cares about is when the schedule comes out.
Well, yeah, I mean it's planning her life.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
and it used to come out in April when we've been together for 10 years, and early in our relationship marriage it was in April, and so she associates it with April. So she's like, why is it so late this year? And I was like, yeah, it's been.
She is right. Yeah. They don't need to just keep pushing it back, but
they want an event in May, and that's what the schedule release is.
So dumb. All right, let's talk defensive depth chart and some of the questions that are lingering as we peer the long road ahead to training camp. Why don't we start on the edge, Zach, where the Eagles have plenty of bodies, right? If you can pull those up, Julia, you got Bryce Huff, obviously, Josh Sweat as your presumptive starters on the outside. You expect Nolan Smith to be a much more significant part of that rotation. Brandon Graham is there. And then you're starting to think about injuries or just extra bodies. Jalix Hunt, the third-round pick, I would say not significant expectations for him to contribute right away, but probably a special teams player. Zach Bond is an interesting player to follow, and we will see in training camp if they're going to use him at all as an off-ball linebacker, just as a way of getting him on the field. We know that Howie has thrown out the Andrew Van Ginkel comparison for him, and then you start to talk about the depth guys. You're talking Patrick Johnson, Julian Okwara, Teron Jackson, Terrell Lewis. I would say given the way that free agency and the draft played out, probably a longer road to the roster for those bottom four than there might have been, a month, 2 months ago. But it seems like an interesting group. Do you think it's enough?
Barring injury, yes, I do. I think that top six will be on the team barring injury. I don't see Bond as a surprise cut. I don't view it as a Corey Nelson situation. I think they do have plans for him. Jalix Hunt, unless there's a phantom IR situation, he'll be on the roster. Do I think it's enough? I do. Now, I don't know if it's better. I mean, they lost their best edge rusher, Hassan Reddick. I don't think it's a one-for-one swap with Bryce Huff in terms of talent. So I think Huff has upside, but yeah, I think that group has gone backwards a bit. Now the difference there is Nolan Smith, like you mentioned, needs to make a big jump year one to year two. If Nolan Smith can play like a first-round pick, if Nolan Smith can have production that matches the tools, then I think they're going to be fine there. If they're not getting production beyond Huff and Sweat, or if Sweat has the year that he had in the back half of the season, then edge rusher is a major concern. Like Bryce Huff has not been a number one guy. Josh Sweat, who I think can be a Pro Bowl caliber player, he's been a Pro Bowler in the past, alternate, but he was quiet during the back half. He was silent during the back half of the schedule. Brandon Graham, I don't want to bet against Brandon Graham, but he's kind of like chief morale officer, if you will, right?
If you're getting 10 snaps a game, you're fine.
So if Nolan, there's a lot of ifs there, but the biggest one is Nolan Smith.
I think that all three of those top guys have ifs, and that's what I was going to ask you, and you answered the question of which of those three situations that you're talking yourself into is most worrisome. Is Bryce Huff going to be a 1A guy? Is Josh Sweat going to be who we think that he is? Or is Nolan Smith going to really make a leap in year two? I think you're probably right that the Nolan Smith is the one that's the biggest question mark. I think Sweat, it's going to be probably somewhere between the first half and the second half, right? I think Huff, there might be some limitations to his game, but I think that he will be productive if healthy. I really don't know what to expect from Nolan Smith.
And that's, you hit it on the head there. Like the other two guys, you've at least seen it. You don't know if Huff's going to be a top of the league player, but you've seen him get to the quarterback. You don't know if Sweat's going to rebound, but you've seen him get to the quarterback. You have not seen this yet from Nolan Smith. That's not to suggest that he can't do it, but there is significant projection for him to be like the no doubt number 3 guy. There's clear projection there.
I think that is a strength in numbers group, right? I think if you're looking at it as maybe you can get snaps from 6 guys there and everybody gets to stay fresh and it's a long-term thing, and even if not everybody plays up to their ceiling, 1 or 2 of them pop, I think that's okay. I mean, think back to the Super Bowl team. They didn't have a star edge rusher, right? Like,
Hassan Reddick. Oh, you mean the
2017 team, right?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
I think it's built somewhat similarly to that.
Okay, and that's a good point. If you can get that, then by all means, that's fine. And that year you also had a defensive tackle who was the best player on the team.
Well,
so
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's go ahead.
But then the flip side of that is 2021, the year before the most recent Super Bowl appearance, they were bad. They were bad, in terms of pass rush. And if you don't get that edge pass rush, if you don't get the rush from the edge, then it really hamstrings the defense and limits the potential. So, no, there are a lot of ifs to go in this season with.
You teased it, and I think that's right. And it's sort of the way I look at it is the bet on strength in numbers on the outside that we're going to get enough from these guys is in part a bet on we are expecting Jalen Carter in particular to dominate and become the best player of this group and take some attention away from the guys on the edge. You look at that defensive tackle depth chart. You've obviously got Jalen Carter. You've got Jordan Davis, and are we expecting him to be a part of the third down rotation, or is he just going to be a first and second down player? I guess we will find out. I think you have to hope that there's some more upside. You see a little bit more of what you saw in week 1 from him. You've got Milton Williams, who's still around. You've got Marlon Tuipulotu and Moro Ojomo, PJ Mustapher.
Yep.
Do you think that that's a group that is deep enough if you look at the defensive tackle group?
Yeah, so when I look at it, you have Jordan Davis needs to be the nose tackle that they want him to be, or that they expect him to be, right? I mean, I'm confident Jalen Carter's going to be a productive player for them. I saw enough of that. I think the talent's there that he can be a true difference maker. And I think Milton Williams can be a good player for them too. But in this defense, in this Vic Fangio style group, and I'm hoping that we get a chance to talk to Vic Fangio soon, is Jordan Davis needs to be like the presence in the middle of that line. Because if he is not commanding attention, if he's not occupying blockers, then it's going to be much harder for Carter and for Williams. And so I think Davis is a big variable there. But I would agree that Carter, the leap that Carter can make is critical here. As far as the depth, backup nose is a question, right? You have Marlon Tuipulotu, you have PJ Mustapher. Moro Ojomo is someone who can take a jump in year 2. But you talked about them potentially being like a Byron Murphy team if he had slipped, or we talked about Johnny Newton on day 2. You could certainly see like what a younger player, what a rookie's path to playing time would be here, because beyond the top three, there's no one who you're saying, all right, this guy's going to have a big role. And they are going to have a lot of odd man fronts. So there are going to be times when Carter, Davis, and Williams are all going to be on the field together.
We just to mention them, Thomas Booker and Gabe Hall, the undrafted free agent from Baylor, the other guys there. I would say, like, on third down, maybe Brandon Graham can slide inside there again, like he used to do. I do think that is a spot, just given how young that group is, where I would not be surprised if before training camp the Eagles add a Kentavious Street type veteran, a Hassan Ridgeway type, just to sort of compete to fill out that rotation.
And I can see why, because you want some experience there, but ultimately you need the investment from like your big time players to play like it. I heard before we came on, Howie Roseman was on WIP, and he was asked about all the money that they pour into offense and how, like, does that show that they care about offense more than defense? And his answer to that was, well, they kind of view it differently. Like, they view their high draft picks as similar to big contracts. And
Totally.
If you look in recent years, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Quinyon Mitchell, their last 4 first-round picks were all offensive players. So they need these guys to be like major factors on this team. And in particular on the defensive line, the Eagles were preparing for this life after Hargrave, this life after Cox with these past 2 first-round picks, and they need them to play like it.
Yeah, I guess we will see how that pans out. All right, let's talk about the linebacker group. And this is obviously a spot always a focus for Eagles fans, and maybe less so for the Eagles. Nakobe Dean and Devin White seem like your projected starters. I think that would be, be pretty shocking if that were not the Week 1 starters, if barring injury.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Trotter, Oren Burks, who they signed from the 49ers. And then, it quickly goes to Ben Van Sumeren and Brandon Smith. Now, Ben Van Sumeren did eventually find his way onto the 53-man roster last year as an undrafted rookie out of Michigan State. A very good athlete, but the book is that, not the best instincts in the world, has a chance to maybe make an impression. This is a spot where, they've got 6 guys. You need 6 guys just to get through training camp.
Sure.
Do you think they're going to add somebody here? Like, Zach Cunningham is still on the market.
I was going to ask you that. Do you think that they look at the top of the depth chart here to kind of push them there? Or do you think they're looking for more special teams bodies? Because Zach Cunningham's the player who makes sense from, they know him. We thought he was productive last year. He gives you that size, that length, the experience. But also, Zach Cunningham's not coming in to be a special teams player for you. Like, Zach Cunningham's not the Oren Burks profile. Are they looking for a younger guy?
Between Burks and Trotter and Van Sumeren, they've got enough special teams help. I think they could use somebody who might need to play on defense. And yeah, I would actually, I think it's borderline more likely than not that Zach Cunningham comes back.
Is Miles Jack around? Is Miles Jack around?
I don't know. You need plumbing help?
Miles Jack from linebacker perspective, maybe. Who knows? Right? I'm still hanging on to my Miles Jack stock. It's like a penny stock at this point. So you might as well. I don't need to cut my losses, and you never know.
I think you do know.
Yeah, they were pretty quick there.
Do you think they'll bring back Zach Cunningham? I think it's the kind of thing where if it gets to training camp and he hasn't found a home yet, then the Eagles might say, "Yeah, come on in."
Yeah, I really think that if Devin White is Devin White, they made a bigger investment in Devin White than any linebacker since Nigel Bradham. Devin White's not your Zach Cunningham, Zach Brown type signing. Devin White's here to be your definite starter on defense.
Yeah, but that's also not. It's also still a low bar. Devin White's going to play.
I'm saying, I think that they're going to want to see this White, Dean, Trotter trio.
You think they already think highly enough of Trotter to pencil him in as the number 3 linebacker?
I do. Yeah, I do. I could be wrong, but I do.
And do you agree that the biggest question mark about that group is what is Nakobe Dean?
Without a doubt. Now, I think actually White might have the most upside, right? He's 26 years old, is that right? And he was a first-team All-Pro, and he was the number 5 pick in the draft. He did not play like it last year. They explained it away, by saying that he was in a contract dispute, right? But when you look at the sheer tools, Devin White has more tools than Nakobe Dean. I think Nakobe Dean's the biggest question because it's year 3 here and you still don't know who he is. And they cleared, I said stack the deck. They cleared the deck. Is that the better term? I mean, cleared the deck's not a card term. Clear the deck would be a boating term, right? You're clearing the deck. Is that?
Sure.
So, I don't know.
Swab the deck.
Swab? No. They cleared the deck last year for Nakobe Dean. I would actually think I still go back to stacking the deck works because they fixed the deck for Nakobe Dean to be the starter. They didn't want anyone to take the job over him. Therefore, the deck was stacked. In any event, we don't need to relitigate that. That was a Studio A debate.
Yeah. We don't want to travel from A to B. We can't do that.
We've progressed to the point that some of the Studio A debates are behind us now. Nakobe Dean, I think is he's without a doubt the big wild card here.
All right. Is it Nakobe Dean or is it Dean Nakobe?
It is definitely Nakobe Dean.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Well, before we move on to the secondary, it's time for me to tell you about our friends at TrueMark, who we had a chance to meet and talk with the other day. And here's the thing you need to know about a credit union vis-a-vis a bank. When you join a credit union like TrueMark Financial, you become part owner, which means the profits come back to you instead of going to shareholders. We're talking better rates, lower fees, a better return on savings, and more flexible options with all the same digital tools and tech to make our lives easier. Plus, TrueMark has local roots right where Julia went to high school in Fort Washington. With 24 branches in the Philadelphia area, they serve our community and our people right here at home. Becoming a member of a credit union has so many benefits over being a customer at a bank. It's a total no-brainer. So head over to truemark.com/PHLY to learn more or to find a branch near you. That's TrueMark, TRUMARK.com/PHLY, federally insured by the NCUA. Hard to see NCUA and not think Puka Nakua.
Okay. I did not think that, but okay. I was watching the Dodgers-Marlins game last night, and
Frisky.
And I wanted to pull out my phone and check out. Well, I was also watching some of these NBA games, but I had the Dodgers-Marlins game on after that.
Pacers-Knicks was fun, huh?
Pacers-Knicks was fun. T.J. McConnell, man. But that call on Miles Turner, that was ridiculous.
There were so many bad calls.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second because, anyways, if that's actually a good segue. If you think that the Pacers are going to rebound, literally, if you think that the T-Wolves are just going to smoke the Nuggets, then the place to turn is BetParks, okay? We're brought to you by the BetParks app. Get in the zone with BetParks Sportsbook app. Money is in the moments. What events are coming up? Well, the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball every single night. There's a game to bet on, multiple games to bet on. Win big with all-day action. Win your first $10 bet and earn $125 in sports bonus bets. You play for fun. You love to win. You bet. Download the app and play along with us. You must be 21 or older. Please gamble responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah, those calls last night. I mean, I don't want to be like,
So
the
bad.
refs, but come on, you can't call that. You can't call that on Turner.
And that was bad. They missed the kickball, which was off his hand, arguably worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess Turner was not fully set. I think that was a crazy call to make, but
yeah. And then you can't overturn it upon review because by the letter of the law, it's the right call. I'm
Right.
just saying in that spot, it's like
yeah, they missed so many calls in both directions too. But
sure, but the Knicks seem to
Bad
be the
job.
beneficiaries of those quite a bit. And then the T-Wolves, man, Anthony Edwards is so much fun to watch. So much fun to watch. And then, I mean, Naz Reid, him coming on, I mean, from LSU, by way of New Jersey. Karl Anthony Towns.
was it Nas Reed or Reed Nas?
It's definitely Naz Reid.
Okay.
But
I feel like Reed should be. You should
need to
get him a Nas
I
Reed
gotta give him a Nas
jersey.
Reid jersey. He has a Karl Anthony Towns jersey. I gotta get him a Nas Reid jersey.
Yeah.
Karl Anthony Towns, a noted Eagles fan, by the way, playing really well. So, yeah, I'm enjoying watching the T-Wolves. Although that's the series I was most looking forward to, and I mean it's not even competitive right now.
Well, Zach, you talked about Karl Anthony Towns being an Eagles fan. Why don't we talk about the Eagles?
Yes. Okay. I like that.
How about
are you
those
reading
Eagles?
the commenters who say we're spending too much time talking about other stuff?
No.
Oh, you see there's 13 minutes left in the show and we've got to get to the corners and the safeties.
Who is commenting?
Who's commenting?
Yeah.
There's multiple
People are
avenues.
saying we're not talking enough about the Eagles?
Sometimes, yeah.
That one guy who does it over and over again? The most pathetic loser in existence? Find a new show, dude.
Please don't. Watch us.
He watches every single show. He comments on every episode. Clearly, he's coming back for something.
For your sense of humor, probably.
Jabron. All right. Let's talk about the corners first. First question for you, Zach. Quinyon Mitchell starting week 1, definitely.
You're telling me
Do
you're
you
asking
think
me?
he is definitely starting week 1 opposite Darius Slay, presuming health?
Yeah, I'm not saying definitely, but presumably. I mean, I would, if I was doing turkeys, I would give him 75 turkeys. as a week
Really?
one starter.
I feel like that would be disappointing. I feel like I would go even higher. Now, how much does James Bradberry play into your?
He doesn't. I don't think James Bradberry is going to be on the
Do you
roster.
think he even comes to camp?
It's a good question. I'm leaning toward no, but I can see the Eagles waiting for a cornerback injury somewhere else and trying to pounce. Like, what's the benefit for them of just moving on? No, he could get hurt. He could be on
Human
the hook.
decency. But.
Sure, but no, I'm presuming Bradberry is gone after minicamp.
I'll quickly just read these down, and then we can talk about some more specific questions. Darius Slay, Quinyon Mitchell, James Bradberry, Keely Ringo, Cooper DeJean, Avonte Maddox, Isaiah Rodgers, Eli Ricks, Zach McPherson, Josh Jobe, Tyler Hall, and Mario Goodrich, and maybe Sean Stevens, who we talked about as being potentially signed yesterday from the rookie camp group. For Bradberry, I think part of the reason that I do think that the Eagles will now move on, and that maybe they will wait to make sure that these rookies make it through healthy over the course of minicamp and stuff like that. It's the same. It's a part of the same conversation we've had about at some point you got to play the young guys.
Sure.
Like if James Bradberry's here, he's taken valuable summer reps away from Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean and Keely Ringo, guys who need those reps. Don't you think?
I agree with you. Yeah, that's a good point, and that will be my argument for moving on from him.
Okay.
Now the reason I was hesitant was not Bradberry. I think Ringo can push to start.
Really?
I could be wrong there, but I think Ringo
Interesting.
could push to start. Yeah.
Over Quinyon Mitchell.
I expect it to be Mitchell, but I'm not. I'm saying I think Ringo's going to put up a fight.
Interesting. That's just betting on the guy, or that's something you've just whispers you've heard that that maybe the Eagles think that he could push for that.
I know they liked the way last season ended. I mean, you're probably thinking about it more from the perspective of a Slay replacement down the line.
Yeah.
Ringo, then your day one, then your starter this year. I would expect Mitchell to be the starter, but I think that they were impressed with Ringo from the Seattle game on last year, and that was kind of part of their calculus for the offseason.
Sure, but if we're doing follow their actions, not their words, they did aggressively draft 2 corners in the first 2 rounds. If they loved Keely Ringo, that probably wouldn't have been the case, right?
Yeah. Now, we'll get to it. I actually think DeJean could be your day one starting slot, and that's actually I would put him over Avonte Maddox as your day one starting slot.
You would go turkeys. You would go like 55-45 week 1 Cooper DeJean over Avonte Maddox.
I would. Would you?
I think I probably would, but do you think that means that Avonte Maddox gets cut in that case?
Probably so. Yeah.
Or maybe he becomes part of the safety group. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know. It feels like a dirty way to treat the guy.
well, they let him look at the market for a month.
Sure.
He had nowhere. I mean,
I know.
he decided to come back here. Yeah. I think DeJean's going to really push for the slot job.
Okay. And then the rest of those depth guys, there are some interesting players in there, from Isaiah Rodgers to Tyler Hall, who they signed, who has real starting experience in the slot, to Eli Ricks, who is most intriguing to you there.
For the slot depth, or for
No,
the
just
overall
generally.
depth? Eli Ricks, I think.
Where do you think Eli Ricks is going to be playing?
Outside.
You think he'll be on the outside?
Yeah, I think you'll see Slay, Mitchell, Ringo, Ricks as your top 4 on the outside, and I think DeJean's going to play a little bit of both. I saw a report today that the Eagles don't want to put too much on him. I actually think the Eagles are going to put quite a bit on DeJean. I think he's going to be I know you hate this term, the movable chess piece, because every chess piece moves.
Correct.
But he will be the chess piece for them. Isaiah Rodgers, I don't know, right? I think Isaiah Rodgers was the lottery ticket signing. I don't think he was the signing like, ooh, we have big plans for him signing. I think that's kind of how it was perceived. But I think that was a lottery ticket type move. Do you?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have no expectations for Isaiah Rodgers. Yeah, but if he looks good, he's got a path to a roster spot potentially. They're very deep at corner. This is the one spot where even if you cut James Bradberry, I think they're fine. Like they don't need to be scouring the waiver wire or whatever. I think they've got pretty good depth there right now. I think you feel good about that group.
What do you think are the chances Quinyon Mitchell ends the season as the number one corner, like the clear best corner on the roster?
Not that far, I think, because Darius Slay's old and might be injured. Darius Slay's still playing at a high level, or at least was for the first half of the season. But yeah, I think you would hope that Quinyon Mitchell can ascend to that level by the end of the season, don't you think?
Absolutely. Yeah, I need to see it with Mitchell. I need to see him this summer. I need to see him this spring.
Yeah, you also have to be realistic. He's a rookie corner, guys who's drafted 22nd overall.
Exactly.
A lot of times those guys turn out to be just a guy.
Emmanuel Forbes last year. Although I still believe in Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah, he's sitting right next to Miles Jack on your stock chart.
Oh, well, there'd be a lot of room because Emmanuel Forbes doesn't take up a lot of space.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, let's close this out with safeties. And obviously you have C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Reed Blankenship as the presumptive starters. Sidney Brown working his way back from a torn ACL figures to be in that mix as well. And then you do notice that this is a less deep, shallower, if you will, position than corner. Mekhi Garner, Tristan McCollum, and Andre Sam closing things out. That's part of the reason why maybe Avonte Maddox would stick around as potentially a safety option. Maybe that is a presage to Cooper DeJean being part of that group in some capacity. But I think the corner depth helps alleviate any concerns you have about the safety depth because there are guys who have some flexibility.
Yeah, I am with you there. That you can play guys in multiple spots. The big question here is Sidney Brown, his recovery. You're not really going to get a training camp from Sidney Brown or much of it. So, there's valuable stuff he can do behind the scenes in the classroom. But let's say he's back week 1, week 2, then you ease him in. I would think that the hope would be Sidney Brown eventually usurps Reed Blankenship as the second safety and Blankenship's the third safety. But I would imagine Brown, at least early in the season, as long as he's healthy, is the third safety kind of moving around different spots.
Yeah, I think Reed Blankenship offers some reliability that you don't get with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Sidney Brown. I think both of those guys offer similar volatility, and I'm not so sure you would want them both on the field at the same time. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I think here's my question. At some point, we will hear from Vic Fangio.
Yes, sooner than later.
I hope so. It feels like he's, been here for a decade at this point. But what are you when you see the Vic Fangio defense in training camp? What are you most curious to see about individual player usage?
Good question. I want to see zone man, right? I want to see how much they're playing press coverage. Although you're not doing as much of that in camp, but they're not going to give away the answers to the test, as Nick likes to say. But yeah, I want to see the different coverage patterns. You want to see how much the edge rushers are dropping. I think that's a big question. But I think those are the two big questions I would have. Then more personnel stuff. But look, Vic Fangio, you hit it on the head better than anyone else I've heard describe this. You're hiring a baseline, right? I understand coaches can evolve, and I understand schemes can evolve, and they adapt to the personnel that you have. But part of the appeal of Vic Fangio is that you have 2 decades of evidence of knowing what he does. So it shouldn't be this huge mystery of what their defense is going to look like. Now, how they use the personnel is the mystery. But Vic Fangio's done this, as I said, for 3 decades really in the NFL. you're getting the Vic Fangio defense. You're not getting Vic Fangio running, a different person's defense.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. I think personnel-wise, I'm curious to see what he does with the linebackers. If it's going to be Cooper DeJean and Devin White from day one in every package, those guys, or is he going to be mixing in Trotter or playing dime with Avonte Maddox and Cooper DeJean on the field at the same time, something like that. But long way to go.
And he's a linebackers guy, so yeah.
I mean, what defensive coordinator is not a linebackers guy?
Well, some guys are D-backs guys.
Yeah,
right?
but
Clinton Hurts, a D-line guy, right? But yeah.
Okay.
How was the Phillies game yesterday?
It was good.
Saw a good game. They're hot right now.
We didn't stay for the whole game, but it was good time. Julian was there too with B.
I saw the photo. Yeah. That's awesome.
Okay. Again, I'm glad you're bookending this episode with odd conversation.
Making conversation. I don't say this as a flex. I had a workout the other day on Sunday that has left me in so much pain during these past 2 days.
Oh, interesting.
That's like that.
Tell me more.
I mean, I'm trying to take care of my body a little better.
Okay.
But
what was the workout?
Well, I don't want to get free advertising. It's a.
Well, you don't have to say the specific place, but this is
it's a place people
it's like
would
a
know.
CrossFit type thing.
It's a place that does 45 minutes of you're doing like different circuits basically.
Okay.
And when I say 45, that would kind of give it away what it is.
Does it? Doesn't give it away to me.
Yeah, it's called F45. Okay.
Okay. So now you're giving it away. Yeah,
you
didn't have to do that.
Yeah. I didn't mean to be cryptic. But yeah, man, like I'm a little embarrassed.
Where are you feeling it the most?
Everywhere. I'm a little sore.
You should be embarrassed about that. You haven't done that. Presumably, that was your first time doing it in a while, right?
Well,
so you haven't flexed those muscles.
I stopped at training camp last year, and
that would qualify as a while.
I do it. I sign up from the draft to training camp.
Okay. How many times a week are we doing this?
Like 3 times a week, 2 or 3 times a week.
Good for you.
And then, but then training. Once the training camp hits, But then once draft ends, it's like, all right, now this is my off season, right? But man, I am. I got to, getting out of bed. I was feeling it. Yeah.
Well, like lifting your arms up.
Yeah, lifting the arms up and the hamstrings and lower back.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so
that's good though. You'll feel as you do it more often that you won't feel it quite as much.
But as I was sitting here with you, every time I turn my head, I feel it right here, right this spot right here. Every time I turn, so it's I'm very robotic in my movements right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that explains the awkward.
I didn't think it was awkward at all. I didn't think it was
encounters.
awkward. I didn't think it was awkward. I was just trying to slowly turn my head.
All right, we are back tomorrow at noon. Zach will not be here. Gonna have Jamie Lynch.
Yeah, Vince is sending me out tomorrow. So, but I'm getting
fired for a day.
Interested in listening to the show and hearing you and Jamie.
Yeah, we're gonna also hear from Brian Baldinger. So looking forward to that as well. So plenty to talk about as we move forward. Now we're still scheduled for 8 p.m. on Thursday night. We were hoping that was gonna mean the schedule was coming out. If it's not coming out, maybe we'll readjust that and talk about that further. So just sort of stay tuned to Zach's social media feed.
Not yours?
Yeah, I mean, I'll probably just be retweeting you.
Okay, fair enough.
It is funny. I was going down my Twitter profile thing the other day. It's just Showtime, retweet Zach. Showtime, retweet Zach. I'm not. Who cares?
Yeah, I'm on there a lot. I admit.
Good for you.
Trying to spread the brand. PHLY. By the way, I want to mention Les Bowen. We're so thrilled to have Les contributing. Les has a column up on Culture Corner, the leadership void that the Eagles are trying to fill. And as we've said with Les, he speaks with, or he writes with the perspective, and he speaks too, but writes with the perspective of someone who's been around the team for 2+ decades. So make sure you check that out on PHLY, and we're going to have more stuff in the coming days that hopefully makes you proud to be a diehard member. If you're not a diehard member, you do that. I look around in here. I just saw Derek Bodner and Kyle Neubeck leave. Charlie O'Connor. It's the NHL draft lottery tonight. He's writing there. Jim Salisbury has diehard content on the Phillies. You can read John Foley's Phillies reports there as well. So make sure you're a diehard member on allphly.com.
Well said. that'll do it for this episode of the PHLY Eagles podcast. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. We will talk to you tomorrow at noon. And for all of us here, as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.